A lot of people would mention the Human Centipede if you ask them about the most horrifying movies ever created. Most casual horror fans have always regarded this trilogy of movies as twisted, depraved, and horrifying. The Human Centipede, on the other hand, is considered a true masterpiece by true horror fans. It is a complex story that is frequently misunderstood, particularly as a result of superficial interpretations. In actuality, a brief exploration of the Human Centipede's metaphors and narrative can show why viewers should go past the film's obvious gore and embrace its true meaning in order to understand it. Here's an explanation of the Human Centipede in case you've been intrigued by the movie and want to gain a deeper grasp of it. So that being said, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Tom Six, a Dutch writer-director, attempted a radical makeover of the stale, worn-out horror genre with his film The Human Centipede. Part of what ultimately made the movie so divisive was the desire to take radical action. 3 visitors are abducted by a mad scientist in the film. After torturing them in various ways, he finally surgically joins them mouth-to-mouth to create the hideous conjoined triplet known as the Human Centipede. It goes without saying that the movie incited horrified emotions, and a significant portion of the global public received negative reviews from reviewers and is still prohibited in some places. The movie was initially denied certification, although it is nevertheless regarded as a David Cronenberg-style body horror classic. Diving into metaphors and true stories behind the experiments. The Human Centipede's core metaphors emerge from the artwork and give the concept fresh depth and nuance. The similarities to Nazi Germany and actual historical accounts from that era are the most obvious of them. There were many stories about German scientists seeking to conduct obscene experiments on humans during the Nazi era. Particularly noteworthy were Dr. Josef Mengel's experimental endeavors, an infamous scientist. These experiments added a grisly cap to a period that the general public found repugnant. The unfortunate and unwilling test subjects frequently suffered harm, disabilities, trauma, and even death as a result of the procedures. Twins were forcibly stitched together in certain trials to mimic conjoined twins who suffer the same fate. Other trials that often don't use any anesthesia are experimental bone, skin, muscle, and nerve transplants and grafts. Researchers would also test new biological weapons and medications on their unfortunate subjects without their permission. Additionally, new surgical techniques like sterilization and brain surgery were eagerly tested, frequently with fatal results or, even worse, long-term medical effects. Dr. Josef Heiter is a fitting name for the main character, who is the scientist conducting these tests, to emphasize the metaphor. The Human Centipede makes a direct reference to these real-life accounts of gruesome experiments. The Human Centipede makes it very evident that there are historical connections contained in the visual story that merit greater examination, even though it lacks any element of subtlety in the spirit of Wes Craven films or The Wicker Man. There is an underlying intent to make viewers aware of the inevitableness of circumstances that result in the loss of life, comfort, and self-respect. Different victims are affected differently by the sense of approaching doom, and their responses reveal fascinating things about them as individuals. This metaphor is greatly supported by the absence of nuance and the deep dive into overt sensationalism. Many viewers would look away if Six virtually dared them to. However, keep your eyes peeled on the screen and you would be able to see the slow but sure exposure of the vulnerability of the human condition and how it reacts to a certain inevitable end. The Human Centipede also resounds as a nuanced critique on modern miscommunication, as the American tourists unintentionally fall victim to this crazy scientist and are confronted with a steely, resolute lack of communication that seems to befit their crude, stupid natures. He also decides to deliberately position the Japanese tourist at the top of his bizarre centipede. The only one of the 3 who is able to speak can only speak Japanese, which he does not understand. The parallel is concluded by Kitsuro in his final speech, in which he forces a period of painful introspection and compares the doctor to God. Despite its horrifying sights, the Human Centipede has a devoted following that has accepted the metaphors it uses, making it an essential cog in the horror movie machine. This assisted it in rising above shame and retaining a cult following for many years. In order to create extremely different sequels, director Tom Six also strayed from the model. Each of these films included a distinctive metaphor, style of narration, and horrifyingly harsh graphics to further emphasize the idea. Hope you liked the video. For more such videos, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon.